谁说不好好学习，毕业了只能进厂打螺丝？
Who says if you don't study hard, you'll end up working in a factory tightening screws after graduation? I studied hard, got a master's degree in mechanical engineering, and still ended up in a factory tightening screws. Today, I tightened more than 500 screws.
人生真的很讽刺啊。
When I went back to my hometown this time and saw all those award certificates on the wall, life suddenly felt so ironic. From elementary school to high school, I was always ranked first in my class. Back then, everyone said I was sure to make something of myself, but that still didn't stop me from driving for Didi today.
Didi is China's largest homegrown ride-hailing platform, roughly equivalent to Uber in the West. In the traditional Western perception, China places great importance on its Confucian educational heritage and has the largest higher education system in the world. A high degree is often assumed to lead to a respectable job, a decent income, and a respected social status. But harsh reality is now mercilessly shattering that myth. The young man in the video is Li Cheng. He graduated from Wuhan University in the class of 2013. In China, Wuhan University holds a status comparable to the Ivy League in the United States or the Russell Group in the United Kingdom. As an elite student from one of China's top universities, someone who once stood out from countless others, his current job is working as a supermarket cashier. There is another story that is even more heartbreaking. In Beijing, there is a food delivery rider named Qian Hao. To support his son through college and to help him escape the same fate of poverty and exhausting labor, he spent 20 full years struggling and working in the big city. 20 years ago, when his son was born, he was already covered in injuries, rushing through the streets to make a living. He once told his son, "Dad is suffering now so that I can send you to college and one day you can sit in an office." To pay for his child's education, this father spent hundreds of thousands of yuan, roughly tens of thousands, or even over 100,000 US dollars. But after his son graduated from college, reality played an extremely cruel joke on them. The son could not find any job. In the end, he had no choice but to put on the exact same uniform as his father, becoming a food delivery rider in the very same district. If they had known this would happen, wouldn't it have been better to keep the money? In a normal society with a thriving business and industrial sector, education should increase a person's human capital and give them a chance to take part in more complex forms of social division of labor. But in today's China, children who went to college can only struggle to survive in the same way as their uneducated fathers, by selling simple manual labor. To understand this tragedy more deeply, we have to turn the clock back 4 years and look at the frenzy once experienced by the parents of these college graduates who are now delivering food on the streets or tightening screws in factories.
Excited and happy. What's the meaning of wearing a qipao today? It means victory from the very start and success in the national exam. What color will you wear tomorrow? Green. Green lights all the way. The day after tomorrow, yellow, marching toward glory.
This is a scene that appears again and again every year outside China's Gaokao examination sites. The Gaokao is China's national college entrance examination. For ordinary working class and middle class families in China, it is seen as the only path to crossing class barriers and changing one's destiny. In traditional Chinese culture, this is known as the carp leaping over the dragon gate. It means that a fish from the bottom, if it can pass this trial, may transform into a dragon soaring through the heavens. For this exam, a Chinese child begins 15 years of intense preparation starting from kindergarten. Parents endure every hardship and pour their life savings into buying homes in good school districts and paying for tutoring classes. All their hopes are staked on just 2 or 3 short days. The beating drums, loud cheers, and joyful celebration outside the exam sites carry the boundless dreams of countless ordinary families for upward social mobility. Yet, however brightly they once smiled outside the exam halls, today's reality is just as cold. A high degree is no longer a ticket to changing one's fate. It is more like a luxurious prison that traps them tightly inside. Why is this happening? It is certainly not because these young people failed to work hard. They survived one of the most brutal selection systems in the world, only to fall into an abyss just before reaching the finish line. The main reasons can be summed up in two unavoidable macro-level realities. The first reason is China's sustained economic downturn in recent years. Over the past 2 decades, several major pillar industries that once supported employment for highly educated Chinese graduates, the internet sector, real estate, finance and wealth management, and the education and tutoring industry have all suffered disruptive contractions in recent years. On the supply side, the number of university graduates has continued to hit record highs, while on the demand side, high-end white-collar positions have sharply dried up. This has led to large numbers of highly educated people being laid off and struggling to survive.
2024年3月左右的时候，我就
Around March 2024, I received a notice that I was leaving the company. My contract was not renewed, so basically, once the contract expired, I automatically left the job. Then I asked people around me and found out that about half of our team had also not received renewal notices. In other words, roughly half of them had left as well. After that, I looked everywhere for job opportunities. I went to about 10 interviews, but either I never heard back or I was rejected. So far, I haven't received a single offer. That's why I started working as a food delivery rider.
Even more heartbreaking is the story of a postgraduate from a medical university who, unable to find a job, ended up scavenging for scrap while holding his diploma.
我可能是第一个持证拾荒的人了。
I may be the first person to scavenge for scrap with a degree certificate in hand. I'm sorry to meet you all in this way, but I have no choice. I don't have a job for now, and I have to survive. Please forgive me. I'm sorry. Please allow me to do this work.
我20多年也没敢想这辈子能在这个厕所里边睡觉。
I've lived for more than 20 years, but I never imagined that one day I would be sleeping in a public restroom or drinking here.
The harsh employment environment has led to a frightening sociological phenomenon known in China as involution. So-called involution refers to a kind of irrational overcompetition. It is like people in the front row of a movie theater standing up in order to see more clearly, forcing those behind them to stand up as well. In the end, everyone is standing there exhausted, but no one's view has actually improved. To survive, today's university graduates are forced to face unimaginable exploitation and extremely low wages.
我是25届本科毕业生，毕业
On recruitment apps, I communicated with more than 2,000 HR people and sent out over 500 resumes. In the end, I received 8 invitations for in-person interviews. The first company was hiring a medical data annotator. It was a small company with fewer than 10 people. The base salary was 3,500 yuan, about 450 euros or 500 US dollars. The second company was hiring a medical foreign trade salesperson. It was also a small company with around 10 people. During recruitment, the boss told me the base salary was 4,000 yuan, but after 2 rounds of interviews, he changed it to 3,500. The third company was hiring an overseas advertising campaign specialist. The base salary was 3,500 yuan, with a probation period of 3 to 6 months. The fourth company was a large enterprise with more than 1,000 employees. My direct supervisor kept testing me with questions like, "Can you work overtime? What is your attitude toward overtime? If there is no overtime pay, can you accept that?" Honestly, I couldn't accept it at all, but in this kind of job market, if I'm forced to accept it, I guess I can. Can you guess what the base salary was and how long the probation period was? The base salary was 3,500 yuan and the probation period was 3 months. Actually, I've encountered even more ridiculous offers: 3,000 yuan before tax for an operations assistant position, and overseas customer service jobs that require overtime, staying up late, and taking days off later instead. Anyway, in Xi'an, if you don't take the job, plenty of other people will.
现在是早上6点11分。
It's 6:11 in the morning. I graduated with a bachelor's degree and now I work in an electronics factory. I got off work at 5:30. Right across from me is our factory. Every day we do dull, mind-numbing work, and from time to time the supervisors still have to criticize you. We work at least 10 hours a day. The day shift is from 8:30 in the morning to 8:30 at night. I'm on the night shift, so I work from 8:30 at night to 8:30 in the morning.
As the economic downturn rapidly shrinks the entire cake, the private sector is coming under pressure across the board. As a result, large numbers of university graduates have placed their last hope in the state system, that is, civil service jobs, state-owned enterprises, and especially monopoly industries such as tobacco, electricity, oil, and state-owned banks. These sectors are protected through good times and bad, with benefits that ordinary people can hardly hope to reach. Yet these remaining respectable, stable, and desirable positions have long since been carved up by the privileged elite. In reality, these jobs have already become almost hereditary. Media reports have repeatedly exposed how the recruitment requirements of certain monopoly state-owned enterprises are precisely tailored for specific candidates, with some even openly promoting slogans such as 3 generations in tobacco or 3 generations in the railway system as a form of family tradition. Even if ordinary children from the bottom of society rank first in school and earn master's or doctoral degrees, they still have no real way to compete with the children of the powerful. The starting point is unequal, the process is opaque, and the finish line has long been predetermined. This has completely blocked the hopes of children from lower-class families to change their fate. When the channels for upward mobility are completely locked shut, when more than a decade of hard study still ends with delivering food, tightening screws in factories, or even scavenging on the streets, ordinary people with sharp instincts finally begin to wake up. According to the latest official data released by China's Ministry of Education, this year's national Gaokao registration has seen an extremely rare phenomenon. The total number of applicants across China has fallen to 12.9 million, a sharp drop of 450,000 compared with last year. And this is already the second consecutive year in which the number of Gaokao candidates in China has shown a significant decline. This breaks the pattern of decades in which the number of Gaokao candidates in China rose dramatically year after year. It is not because today's young people no longer love studying, nor is it merely a demographic turning point. Rather, it is a signal of a violent shift in the mindset of China's lower classes. In the past, Chinese parents were willing to endure every hardship to support their children's education because they firmly believed that education could bring a brighter future. But today, hundreds of thousands of ordinary families have seen the reality clearly and have cast a painful vote with their feet. Facing a collapsing economy and channels of social mobility monopolized by privilege, they and their children are launching the most determined and also the most silent resistance against this carefully packaged myth of education.